My hair is of such suboptimal length at the moment. It's too short on the sides to get behind my ear, and it's too short on top to pull back to back here. It just falls out, and it's upper day, so I can't wear a hat. First world problems right here. Okay, I'm just gonna take you through an upper day workout again today because it's upper day and I've nothing else to put up. So yeah, I might just talk through all the exercises today as something different rather than doing a commentary, because last time we did a commentary the audio turned out wank as fuck. So yeah, pick up at the gym. So this isn't the gym, but what I decided to do was, instead of taking all the clips and just commentating over it like last time, what I'll do is I'll actually talk to you about the exercises and explain things like this in person in a demonstration fashion and have the clips of the workout playing over it. This is like a quick upper day that I would do if you're going to the gym and it was closing in an hour, or if you only had an hour to do it, because the exercises that are in it that go sequentially, you can do back to back. So what it's called is supersetting. So what you can do is do one motion, we'll say it's going that way, because you're using your chest front delts, and then you do one that you'll be pulling back because you'll be using your lats, and they're not as involved in the pushing motion. So like programming upper days, I would do it maybe if you were doing 5 days and you wanted a push-pull legs upper lower kind of split, or if you were doing 4 days and you wanted upper lower. So it's really just whatever your personal preference is that way. As I said, how I would set out an upper day is one horizontal pressing movement, one horizontal pulling movement, one vertical pressing movement, one vertical pulling movement, and then you can add accessories. So if you wanted something like a lateral raise for shoulders, medial delt there, or if you wanted to do arm work, a lot of people will do, same as myself, will do a tricep exercise and a bicep exercise as well. So that's 6 exercises that you can do back to back or superset, and it just means you cut down the time of the workout a lot. So as I said, what you'll do is you'll do your horizontal pressing movement, take maybe a 1 minute break because these muscles won't be used in the horizontal pulling movement. Then take a minute break, go back, horizontal push, minute break, horizontal pull, minute break, horizontal push, horizontal pull, however many sets you have. Then you can take a normal break, 3 or 4 minutes, go on to your vertical push, and then do a 1 minute break, vertical pull, and repeat that with bis and tris as well. That means that you're just, as I said, cutting down the time of that workout. You can get it in quickly while actually hitting everything you want to hit properly. Before any of the actual heavy lifting, or maybe in my case when you lift like a 4-year-old girl, the not so heavy lifting, what I'll actually do is warm up my shoulders. I'll do this by a mixture of pull aparts with a resistance band that's a resistance that's okay for you. This is just, as I said, to warm up my shoulders and get me used to retracting my scapula. I'll also do these overhead swings while holding the band, again just to warm up that shoulder, warm up that rotator cuff. And then I'll also do some face pulls. This is probably my favorite exercise for warming up them shoulders and getting that scapula retracted, and kind of just getting that motion into your head and keeping it in that place. So what you're going to do is grab the band, retract your scapula, and think about pulling the band towards your face, kind of like a double bicep pose. What you don't want to do is pull it towards your chest, because as you can see, this is not, you're not going to be able to pull properly there. So you grab it overhand, 2 hands, pull back your scapula, and then bring it up to your face like a double bicep pose, which is this. Yeah, so let's get into the actual lifting. What was I doing there? Was I going to jab you or what? For my workout today, I've started doing heavy singles at the start of my workout because I want to actually bring that 1 rep max up. Heavy for me, that is, it's not heavy for everyone. So as you can see, I'm doing 85 kg, just 2 heavy singles before I move on to my actual volume work. What I'll say about these is I'm actually bringing it down to touch off my chest, because obviously people won't count a bench press unless it comes down and touches your chest. So I'm just doing that heavy work, touching my chest, but still keeping it controlled enough so that I'm not doing any damage to my shoulders, before actually going on to my normal volume, where I will work in my active range. This is where I'll retract my shoulders, bring it down, and as you can see, my forearms are quite long, so it will come to within, we'll say, 3 or 4 inches of my chest, and then I'll press back up. This is just keeping tension on the chest, keeping it safe for your shoulders, because as I said, long forearms, if I was to try and bring the bar, when I bring the bar all the way to my chest, it puts my shoulder in a very bad position and it's weak, and I just want to minimize injury, so I'm working in that active range. Well, you kind of want to maximize the tension on your actual pec muscle, so working in this active range with the slow eccentric is going to result in more tension and therefore hopefully more gains. So to bench safely, obviously retract scapula, depress it, and keep this stable throughout the whole movement. As well, what you want to try and think about doing is pinching your elbows in just to keep your shoulders in a safe position, and try and keep this forearm perpendicular to the ground. Bench is the horizontal pushing movement, so then we're supersetting that with a unilateral kind of isolation horizontal row. This is just for your lats mainly, and the reason I'm doing it unilaterally is just because my lats are uneven and one is stronger than the other, so I'm doing unilateral work hopefully to kind of even that out. So what you're going to do is you're going to start from a fully protracted position and retract your shoulder first before pulling. You're going to want to pull with your arm close to your body and keep that shoulder retracted, and then you're going to want a slight twist at the back. This is just to try and shorten the lat as much as possible, because your lat connects from up here all the way down to your spine and down here. Something that might be helpful is, when you're thinking about it, is think of horizontal rowing motions for back thickness, and then think of like vertical pulling motions for back width. So next we seated shoulder press. This is mainly for your front delts, so the front of your shoulder and your upper chest. So what you'll see is that I retract my scapula at the very beginning before pushing up and coming down slowly. So this is just keeping your shoulders in a safe position. You'll also notice that I don't have the actual bench completely straight. I have it at a slight angle because I don't have the shoulder flexibility and mobility to push straight upwards. It's just something you could be aware of and that you could add in, is that having this 75 degrees instead of 90 can result in much healthier motion for your shoulders. What you're going to want to do is push up and think about coming straight down rather than thinking about bringing your elbows together. This then should be supersetted with the vertical pull. Obviously these don't have to be supersetted, but this is just the best way of doing it to minimize the actual workout time. My preference for a vertical rowing motion is actually a neutral grip lat pull down, but today that was in use, so what I did was a unilateral lat pull down with cables. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm retracting the scapula before every movement. So I'm starting from a protracted position where the scapula is up and pulling down and keeping that set and bringing my arms down. Thinking about using my hands as hooks, so pulling through my elbows. This is just what helps me think about using them lats. You don't want to force yourself to come to a position where you're almost picking yourself up. Like, you don't have to bring your hands below your head. It's up until the position where you feel like you've got that full tension on the lat, and then you want to pause for a second and slowly let that back up. Something you'll see a lot of people actually do is they'll try to bring it down, and what they'll do is they'll rise their traps, so your shoulders will go up and they'll just pull like this. So they're not actually getting that movement. What they're doing is they're just bringing themselves to the actual imaginary bar in their heads. So again, 4 second slow eccentric on this. This just maximizes tension and actually has helped me so much actually feeling my lats. So getting that mind muscle connection with your lats. Another thing you might see people doing is that they'll lean so far back that this is almost a horizontal row. You want to make sure that what you're thinking about using is that vertical row, because the different angle between the vertical and horizontal is what hits different parts of the lats. Moved on to the tricep exercise, so getting them arms. Doing here is an isolated tricep pushdown with one arm at a time. What I think about doing here is retracting and depressing the scapula as per usual. This is just putting you in a stable position so that you can isolate that tricep. So what you're doing then is you're pushing down, and at the very bottom of the movement you're going to pull your arm back slightly. This is just going to help get some activation in there in the long head of the tricep. So as I said, pinning that arm down, retracting that scapula, and not bringing that shoulder forward. Your body's smart. It knows that if it brings that shoulder forward, it's going to take some pressure off and make it easier for you to actually extend your arm. What you want to do is keep that shoulder stable in a good place and bang, that's gonna isolate that tricep. How many times I fucking say this, I apologize, but retract your scapula when you're doing the bicep curl as well. So you're gonna keep that shoulder in a stable position. This is just gonna let you isolate that bicep. You're doing a bicep exercise. You wanna feel it in your bicep. You don't wanna be swinging that thing up. You don't wanna be using your shoulder, well, unless you're trying to do that, but I sincerely doubt it. So what you're doing is bringing that shoulder back, retracting, and then pinching that arm in as hard as you can and pulling up with that bicep. And think about bringing that pinky to your shoulder, squeezing at the top, releasing down slowly. Again, if you bring your shoulder forward, this is completely changing the exercise. So try and just keep that shoulder in a stable position. How many times can I say the words retract, stable, scapula and position in one fucking video? That should do it for today. Let me know if this format's actually better, where I switch between a video of me demonstrating as well as a video of me actually doing it in the gym. Yeah, see you in 2 days time for the next upload, whatever it is. Hope you learned something. If you did, maybe like the video. I never say this shit. Maybe subscribe as well. I don't think I've asked anyone to subscribe yet, but oh, I did actually in the second video. But yeah, subscribe, like the fucking video if you learned something. And yeah, more sick shit to come.